Hello and welcome back to Math Class with Mr. Kura. Today we're going to continue working on Pythagorean Theorem. Our previous video we were solving Pythagorean Theorem for the hypotenuse or the C value. Today we're going to solve Pythagorean Theorem for legs or for the A or B value. So let's jump right in and see what we have here. So let's come up with a triangle here. Let's say this one is 7 and this is 25. So if we use Pythagorean theorem, we're going to say, we always write it out, remember, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that's Pythagorean theorem. Now let's look here and plug in our values. So remember, the hypotenuse, or the C, is always one that's opposite from that 90-degree angle. So our C value is 25 here. So we're going to rewrite this as equals 25 squared. And then A and B are interchangeable, so I usually just use A. So 7 squared plus B squared. And then we just go through and start to simplify this and see what we come up with. So 7 squared is 49 plus b squared equals 25 squared is 625. And then if I were to solve this, go through and try and solve this, I would have to say minus 49, and then that would cancel out. We'll be left with b squared equals 576. Now we need to find the square root here. So we take the square root of both sides, remember, and I went into this in more depth in the previous video, but when we have a variable squared, we follow our normal practice of doing the opposite operation. Well, the opposite of squaring something is the square root. If I do something to one side, I have to do it to both sides. So the square root of b squared is just b. The square root of 576 is 24. So our b value here is 24. So it's the same process really as the solving for the hypotenuse. You just have to do some extra steps of solving for the variables. So for the b. All right, let's do another one here. Let's do this as 29 and 21. All right, so we'll set this up again. Remember, start with a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Then let's plug in here what goes in c. The one opposite from the hypotenuse, or the hypotenuse, which is opposite from that 90-degree angle. So c squared becomes 29 squared. And then we'll use 21 as our A, and we're going to solve for B. So 21 squared plus B squared equals 29 squared. So go ahead and try and solve, or start to simplify this. So 21 squared is 441 plus B squared equals 29 squared is 841. Then we go through, continue to solve, minus 441, minus 441, and this cancels. B squared equals 400. When we have a variable squared, to the opposite operation of that is the square root. Square root. The square root of b squared is b equals 20. Alright, so that's how we use Pythagorean theorem to solve for a missing leg value. Same process as solving for the hypotenuse. It's just when we get to this part where we have to solve the equation, it's a little bit more difficult, not quite as simple as when we're solving for the hypotenuse. Alright, thanks again for spending time in math class with Mr. Kura. I look forward to talking to you again soon.